good. You've got to be a fan of the sport. You've got to be a fan of the 50-50. You've got to be a fan of any fundraisers that are going on.
Well, I've seen you talk to when we were getting there and getting set up with 50-50. You make sure that you call the teams in that are going out to sell those tickets so you can get their take on what's going on. You got to get buy-in from them so they can excite you about what they're trying to do. And you draw that out of them when they come up into that tower.
Well, and here's the things. Like I said, I've heard bad announcers. And bad announcers just show up to announce. Okay? When the races are over, they leave. There's so much more to this skill set. And in fact, I'm another project I'm working on. We'll talk about that way down the road in the early stages. But I think to be a great announcer, you have to be, like you said, number one, a fan. You have to have that passion. The passion has to be real. This can't just be a job. You're not going just to sell a car. I've been in that position. And when you get up and you say, oh, I've got to go to work today, it's time to do something different because you've lost it. You've lost it. And to get something like that back, I sold cars for 12 years. I'll never sell cars again. I loved it for a long time. But there was that day that I woke up and said, oh, man, I gotta go sell cars again.
Well, you're showing up, there's only 2 Pintos and 4 Chevy Citations on the
Well, yeah.
Who'd want to go to work?
I mean, you've got to have that passion. And what creates that passion? The atmosphere you're in. And you've got to help create that atmosphere. We all feed off each other. Some of the things that I, as an announcer, let's take away the racing. Okay? Because that's something that it's going to be as part of what you do every single night you get behind the mic. One of the things that I pride myself on, something that I truly enjoy, is the 50-50. Getting as much money as I can for whatever that charity might be. Everything we've ever done with the Shriners and Buzz Mitchell. Getting down there. Okay, I'm going to tell you a funny story. Okay, this is why I pride myself on it. Because you talk about the passion. Okay, this whole Shriners deal with Buzz started off as a conversation about, hey, we should do something with Shriners. He's a Shriner. Buzz is a Shriner, and Buzz is a fantastic Shriner. His passion for that is just as great as his for the sport or ours for the sport. In this conversation, this whole victory visit idea came. Getting the drivers together, taking them up to the hospital, visiting with the kids, touring the hospital, signing autographs, hats, giving these kids something, making them smile. Okay? Raising money for those families, for those hospitals to provide what they do. That's all. Those families don't pay anything. When you can help raise money for a kid that just went in and had a 13-hour spinal surgery and changed their lives, even if it's just, what we do is such a small scale. When you raise $40,000 for a hospital that annually gets $80 million, you're a little tiny cog in a great big machine, but you're helping. See, that for me is something that and I'm not saying for me. When I say me, I'm talking about Moxie.
Yeah.
What we do, that is something that I take a lot of pride in, and I do my best on that aspect because, like I said, I'm a fan. I'm the environment, the passion to use our sport or something we love to benefit others that don't even have anything to do with our sport. They don't even know what we do. To see those kids, I'm telling you right now, it'll put a tear in your eye. And I love doing that kind of stuff. I love being able to use our platform for personal, and I'm not saying personal, but for, I'll say personal, in the fact that you're changing somebody's life. You're helping do that. Funny story about that, and this is I don't really have ever talked about this on the air. You guys have heard me tell this story. A couple years ago, we're at Willamette. We're doing our pit walk, and we're talking to teams, and we're taking notes. And, like I do every Saturday night, just doing what we do. And I get to the Weinbargers. Scott's in the trailer. We've got a good relationship with the Weinbargers. We talk, we laugh. They're fun people. And Scott says, "Hey, help us out. Did you see our little thing we got going on Facebook with Colin's driver door?" I said, "Oh yeah, I saw that." He goes, "We sold that door for $400." I said, $400? I'd have got 8. And he says, "Oh yeah, right." I said, "I'd have got 800 for that door." He goes, "All right." He goes, "Driver doors for sale tonight." It was the last race of the year.
I remember that day.
Driver's door on Colin's cars for sale. Great. Watch this. I knew what we were going to do. Sold that door off Colin's car that night. Remember how much we got?
It was like 800 and something, wasn't it?
No.
No, it was higher than that.
A lot higher.
Yeah, it was
we got $2,200 for that door.
I stopped bidding at 400.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's those things, to help others, to use our sport to help others. I love that. Mike Patterson chimes in. Moxie Mike, our California guy, says, "I never knew the extra announcers have to do until I met Mike Mosier and you, Corey." Thanks, Mike. Mike has become a fantastic announcer. And understands, you're not just that guy that shows up, talks about it on the mic, and goes home. You're there 2-3 hours for the race to start, and you're there for 2 hours afterwards. There's so much that goes on when you do what we do. But I wouldn't change it. I love it. I absolutely love it. Did I ever see myself doing this? Honestly, no. Had I thought about it? I mean, I guess I thought about it a couple times as a kid, but not seriously. But I absolutely love what we do. I love what we do because there's those moments. I mean, Marissa Henson, the 17-year-old girl that showed up and won the Art Charles with the Sparkmont, put it on the boys. Those moments are, that's a moment that we get to share with somebody who's going to remember that for the rest of her life.
Mm-hmm.
Those fans were to say, man, say she does make it big. I was there the night she won that big race. I mean, you got to share those moments. And for me, I think that's just one of the things that I truly enjoy about doing what I do or what we do. That's the fun part for me. It's great stuff.
Now it's time for me to be honest.
Uh-oh.
So
I don't know if I want to hear this.
No.
Okay.
It's good. It's
Okay.
good stuff. But I think I've told you this before, actually.
Okay.
Who was the old flagman down in Eugene?
Oh, Rick.
Yeah. I wanted to be just like that guy.
Man.
I wanted the white.
How many kids have said that?
Oh my gosh, that guy who was the most energetic flagger.
Still is.
He still is.
He
yeah.
still is.
But that restless leg syndrome.
Oh man.
I mean, I'll tell you what. I wanted to be that guy.
Yeah.
And I wanted to throw a flag, so every weekend I'd forget my flag just so I knew my parents would buy me another flag every weekend. Oh, my room was stacked full of, the novelty flags.
Oh,
out of
yeah.
the souvenir stand, But
Yep.
boy, I would copy everything that guy did when I was like 5, 6, 7
Love
years
it.
old,
Yeah.
But man, he had that. I think at one point I remember him having his white T-shirt with his pack of cigarettes rolled up in the sleeve, and
He had a tattoo on one arm that said "baby," another one
Probably.
said "hey." Oh man, I mean, see that's the stuff when you're a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, we all wanted. I know you dreamed about winning a strawberry cup or an A main somewhere. So did I.
Yeah.
And I got to experience that. I got to be on a crew that took home a strawberry cup victory. Championships, and that stuff's all great. But it all led me working with, and I say I'm here where I'm at because of getting to work with the teams and the drivers and the members of those crews, learning all that knowledge. It put me where I am. It put me where I am right now, doing this stuff we do on the air, and behind the mic, interviewing drivers. It's just all of that came full circle, and I didn't end up in the cockpit of a race car. which, I mean, I easily could. If you want to spend the money, go build a race car and go have fun. But I think I have just as much fun doing what I do now as I would on the track.
Right.
You know, I mean, I've always had an interest in you know, growing up as a kid. My grades were always in literature and spelling and writing and English, and you know, that's where I excelled. And you start putting all this together without realizing it, and it sends you on this path. You know, what year was it? Probably 2008. I was working on a deal that the High Wallers were, you know, the movie The High Wallers. They were putting all it together, and I had a group of kids I was working with in Salem, or in Albany, and I had named that little deal Moxie Motorsports. That's where the name for the kart team came from. But we were taking troubled kids, like a little version of the High Wallers, and letting them work on these karts and letting them drive these karts. Well, the High Wallers, Russ and Critter heard about this, right? And the next thing I know, these guys are talking to me about bringing their camera crew out to the track that I'm working with. And we went to the Albany motocross track where they had their kart track. And it was a day we were out there with the kids. They were driving the karts, and we were showing them how to do stuff. And they came out and filmed that. And it's stuff like that that kind of just gets you going, you know, in a direction that you never saw coming. But when you get there, you're like, this is where I'm supposed to be. You know, it's just all that stuff comes together, and it ends up in this big bowl that you put the final, you know, you mix everything up, and, you know, your final product.
The best meatloaf of your life.
Oh, come on. You know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't change what I do. I love it. I love the people I work with. I love the job that I do. I love it all. It's fun. You know, Mike Patterson says, I know where you're coming from. I'm kind of going through that now. I kind of touched on it real lightly that Mike, no longer an announcer at Bakersfield, actually has signed a deal with Santa Maria, which, you know, instead of him traveling 2.5 hours one way to announce, he's now traveling 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
We have a relationship with Bakersfield Speedway. It's been very good since, you know, 2013. So even for me, it's bittersweet that Mike isn't at Bakersfield anymore. But I understand his position. Driving 2.5 hours to make a certain amount of money when you can drive 10 minutes and make a lot more, you know. And there's that element. I mean, you've got to. It has to make sense, right. You know. Santa Maria is where Mike grew up. You know, that's his home track where he worked at before. Then some ownership change happened, and down the road Mike went. You know, working with the Bakersfield crew, getting to sit in the Mosier Tower. I mean, to work with Mike Mosier, honestly, one of the greatest dirt track racers dirt track announcers in the history of our sport. The guy, I got to work some Budweiser Nationals with him, and it was phenomenal. You know, it's the young driver coming up, learning from, you know, the champ. Was kind of, you know, those moments I got to work with Mike Mosier before he passed, and Mike had a lot of those. Mike Patterson had a lot of those moments with Mosier. You know, change happens. He won't be at Bakersfield, and he'll be at Santa Maria. I don't know what's going to happen with us. So, you know, what big races we're doing. If we're doing any big races this year, as far as away from home, a lot of change going on at Antioch. You know, new owner. New everything down there is new. They're doing a lot. I think it'll be a good thing for that place. You know, we've talked with some people in Antioch about doing some stuff down there, and who knows? You know, we'll see where this whole thing ends up in 2020, if it even gets started at all. I think we'll get started. I do. I got to think positive. I think we will. But until that day comes, the answer that everybody's looking for, we don't have. As far as, look, we don't know. You know, if we had an idea of what was going to happen at Southern Oregon Speedway or anywhere else, you know, that information will be put out when we have it.
I really should have bought that crystal ball I saw at a estate sale. A
I
while
told
back.
you.